Welcome to Babies from Beyond, the podcast that gives all babies a voice, whether they are still in spirit or already earthside. I'm Lauren Dionysius, a former registered NICU nurse turned baby soul communicator, and I'm here to share the wisdom of today's babies to guide you on your motherhood journey. So I want to start this episode by adding a little preface, I guess, that this episode isn't just about babies. This can affect older children too, specifically up until around 3 years of age, but for some children it's even longer. But I'm focusing on babies because it tends to be the most intense during that time, the most obvious during that time. But as babies and children get older, it can then present in different ways around their sleep. So let's dive straight into the topic of baby sleeping patterns from a soul's perspective. So where to start with this? I have tried to actually record this episode 3 or 4 times because there was so much information that came through, but I wanted to share this in a way that was easier to digest, especially if you are quite new to baby soul communication. It's something you're only just starting to realize is a thing. I want to really keep this simple because it's a very different perspective than perhaps what we've believed or what we've been taught to believe around babies and sleeping. So the best way for me to explain this, at least for this episode, is to guide you through the process of a soul coming to the earth. So let's think about this for a moment. You are a soul, which is, in my experience, an infinite energetic source that spends most of its time floating about the ethers, and then we decide at certain times to come to the earth and have a life here for different reasons, different purpose, all of these things. But the biggest thing, and I think we can all attest to this right now, is that the earth is a pretty crazy place, right? There's so much going on. There's so much change that's happening fast, almost like we can't keep up with it, but also other change that we kind of wish would speed up a bit more, especially around systems. But the reality is, like, the earth is a pretty wild ride right now. There's so much going on. There's a lot of energy flying about, and there's a lot of healing going on the planet as well, lots of growth and expansion. So what's really important to understand is this affects us on all levels, whether we are aware of it or whether we're not aware of it. But the journey is, when it comes to babies, is that they feel that so much more intensely than we do as adults. Also, let's remember that babies sleep a lot more than us as adults. So I want to share, at least from my perspective, how the soul and the human together experience this thing that we call sleep. So in my experience, which I always say that's the only platform that I can speak from, is that when we sleep, again, whether we are babies or children or adults, our soul travels. And we remain tethered to our body, which to me looks like a silver rope or a silver cord. And our soul is then able to travel to different places. And this is where we dream. There's different realms, different dimensions that I won't pretend to understand fully. I just know that our soul is multidimensional, and our human presence or our human experience is just one of those dimensions that we are able to experience. So when we connect that with the soul realms and the dream states, we're going to these places and then we have to come back again. After all, we are connected to our body, our soul while our soul does leave our body to a degree, it doesn't disconnect from it. There's still that connection. It's just while the body is sleeping, our soul gets to go and do some other things. Anyway, that's a whole can of worms that I don't want to open today. If you're interested around like dreams and all of these things, there's plenty of content out there that you can consume and learn around this topic. But when it comes to babies and children, what I find is they are sleeping all the time. They sleep so much more than adults do, especially newborns, which when I was working as a nurse in NICU, I worked with a lot of premature babies, and these little tiny people would sleep for 23 hours, sometimes more per day, especially the micro-prems, the 23, 24, 25 weekers. They sleep a lot. And my theory around this is why, well, one of my theories, this is one of the reasons why it's more intense for babies and children, because they sleep a lot more than adults do. Even toddlers are having their daytime naps. And it's probably not until they stop having their daytime naps that is generally when I start to see some shifts for some children, not all, around this time. And my theory around this is that they're starting to sleep less. So it's less intense for them, this process. So on the back of that, then, how does all of what I just said, the soul traveling, the fact that babies sleep a lot more than adults, how does that then impact their experience of sleep and their process around it? So what I've learned over the years and what babies themselves have shared with me is this information hasn't come from me. It's only come through connecting and communicating with them. When parents say to me, like, why won't my child sleep? Or why are they so terrified of falling asleep? Or why do they literally wake up screaming when they sleep? And these may be extreme examples, but they're so much common than what we would think they are. So let me try to explain this. I find it quite a difficult concept to put into words because I feel the energy of it and I feel what they're feeling as they come and go from sleep. But what happens is the soul travels, the baby or the child goes to sleep, their soul remain tethers to the body, they travel to wherever they're going to travel to, and they're out there for hours, remembering that the sleep cycle for an adult and a child is very different. The sleep cycle for a baby and a child is much shorter than it is for an adult, which means they're able to get to that, well, what science would call that dream state or that REM sleep much quicker than what an adult does. So a baby or a child, their soul goes out, does what it wants to do. It goes to different places, explores things, all of these things that I still don't really understand yet. And then what happens is that, and then something happens to bring them back to the earth. So they're either hungry or they've heard a loud noise or their body's uncomfortable or whatever it may be that brings them back into their bodies. But what happens is they come back in with an almighty thump. It's literally like they're crash landing on the earth. And then babies, especially babies, but also children, they do that multiple times a day. So they go to sleep, their soul goes and travels, does what it wants to do, comes back, crash lands. Oh my God, here I am on the earth. It's heavy here. I'm used to flying about the ethers. And now I'm back here in this space. It's dense here. It's heavy here. I feel restricted. I'm back in this little body that I still don't really understand. Don't really know how it works. Can't communicate. Can't say what I want to say in a way that's understood. All of these things. And I'm confused and I'm disorientated and I don't know which way is up. And they have literally crash landed back. And if you imagine doing that multiple times a day, what I find starts to happen is that babies then start to learn, like Pavlov's dogs, with their hunger and the cues and the behaviors. They start to develop this memory that's based on experience that when I go to sleep, it's going to be hard to come back. Or if I go to sleep, it's going to hurt or it's going to be painful or it's going to be scary when I come back. And so then what happens is they start to develop this fear of going off to sleep, even though going off to sleep for them can often be very peaceful, and there's this sense of freedom again and this release from the physical constraints of the human body. But it's the coming back that I find is the hardest. So I hope that makes sense. It is about the soul's journey and the soul's adjustment to the earth. And then what I find happens as children get older is they start to realize that it's not so bad coming back. The longer they're here on earth, the more they get used to the earth's energy, the more they understand that I'm going to wake up the next day. Because babies and children, especially the younger, they don't know that they're going to come back. It can be quite a shock. They haven't gotten into that rhythm yet that I go to sleep and I wake up the next morning, like us as adults. And in my experience, that's why most adults are not afraid of going to sleep. I'm sure we've all experienced that jarring sometimes of like suddenly waking up, whether it's been because of an alarm or a loud noise outside or just coming back into our bodies. Sometimes it can hit us and we can have those moments as soon as we wake up where it's like, who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? And then all the memories come flooding back. Whereas babies and children, they don't have those memories ingrained yet. So they're having this jarring effect, as I said, like multiple times a day, which can fuel the fear. So I hope that gives you a different perspective on babies and sleeping, and that it's not about them. It's not necessarily anything that you're doing wrong or anything like that. I mean, there are ways to support them, and I'm not going to dive into all of that there because there's lots of different theories and approaches and modalities out there around babies and their sleep. Let's just say there's not one thing that works for every baby. But what I've found to be the most effective way is being able to understand the journey of the soul when it comes to babies and children and their sleeping, and how that affects their little human selves, and being able to support them more on an energetic level to help them to feel safe and to help them to understand what's going on. So just as a quick recap, babies and children are not used to sleeping. It's something that's new for them, especially the younger they are, the more intense it is to have this experience of sleep and then come back into the world. In a sense that can be very jarring for their nervous system, very confusing, very disorientating. And also the amount of times that they do this every single day. Whereas for us adults, generally, if we sleep pretty well, we go to sleep once and we wake up in the morning. Maybe we wake up in the night to go to the bathroom or get a drink of water, like these things happen. But generally for us adults, we're doing this once a day, maybe twice, whereas babies and children are doing this multiple times a day. So it's a very intense experience for them until their energy starts to adjust and adapt to the earth. So yeah, I really hope this episode helped to expand your mind a little and to give you a different perspective on babies' experiences of sleeping, or at least allowed you to think about babies and children and their sleeping patterns a little differently to what you may have 15 minutes ago. Thank you for tuning in to Babies from Beyond. If you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love for you to leave me a review just wherever you listen to your podcasts. Also, head over to Instagram and give me a follow at Born Energy, and check out the show notes for more ways that you can connect with your baby's soul, including one-on-one readings and online programs to support you. Until next time, trust your journey and your baby. Take care.